And we are live. I am Adam. This is Highly Articulated. Today, we're talking about G.I. Joe Classified. Soon, we will be talking with my good friend Chris McLeod of the Full Force podcast. Unfortunately, he is he's otherwise engaged for a little bit. So we will we'll start without him. I'll go over a few things, and then we'll get into it with Chris. We'll get into his top three. We may have to cut down some of the honorable mentions in order to get through, the top three by the time he gets here. But that's fine. That's the beauty of live, right? You get whatever sort of comes up. It was either start on time ish. Granted, I was a couple minutes late. It was either start on time or wait. But I don't like delaying things because then people don't know what's going on and it's confusing, and the people in the comments start getting worried or whatever. So we're gonna get going anyway. And I do these by myself all the time, so I can stall. That's no problem at all. I'm pretty good at that, I think. So we will we'll get through this. We'll get through this, and I'm not worried about that. I'm just going to share this screen, which is not a screen that I had planned on sharing, but I'll share it now because it makes sense to do that. Now, why is it looking like that? Let's try. What if I do this? Does that make it bigger, better? It does make it a little bit bigger. Anyway, it kind of looks crappy, but that's okay. So this is, for anybody that's not familiar, this is the Action Figure 411 visual guide of the Classified series. And as you can see, there are a few of them now. Chris and I have been sort of chatting, going back and forth. We kind of planned this for a while. We thought, with as many figures as we're getting, are our original favorites still our favorites, or have we picked newer? How does the recency bias affect it? All that kind of stuff. So it's our top three of the first 100 releases, which gets us to the His Tank, which I think is a pretty safe spot to kind of cut it off and sort of pick from. The His Tank technically, I think, is like 99, 100, and 101. So two out of the three are eligible, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, that doesn't really even matter because neither Chris nor I picked, any of the His crew. Um, Although Ripper might have been in with a chance if we had sort of extended it past, if we had extended it to what is currently available in hand to people. Ripper is an absolute ripper. I just opened it the other day, posted that video up on Friday. Um, I've been disappointed is the wrong word with some classified figures recently. I've been a little bit let down, I guess. The classified line has, for me, such a high bar for itself that it's almost as though um they're trying to improve on what they've done before, and it's almost as though by trying to improve sometimes they make mistakes. The big thing that's bothering me that I've seen on a whole bunch of figures recently, and I genuinely don't know why they did it, is that bicep cut. It's just a straight cut where it's not, you don't have the shoulder socket kind of fitting into the bicep. They're just doing a straight cut on like a full sleeve, and it doesn't never moves quite right. It's really obvious when you kind of bend the arm. It has a tendency to create a gap. Um, the rumor that they changed factories has sort of affected QC. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Um, but regardless, look at how many figures we've gotten in like 3 years, right? That's the point. The real point is we've gotten so many characters, we've gotten so many figures, and there's so many more coming. To that point, I'm actually going to share Chris's um, Chris's Facebook page here as well. So this is the Full Force Podcast Facebook page where he shows, he shares any and all pick. Oh, there's my there's my chat with Chris. He thought we were doing this on Saturday, not on Sunday. Um, but I wanted to sort of bring this to attention. So there's people that have the vamp in hand already, which is kind of bonkers. The fact that the fact that we're getting that in hand this early is pretty massive. So let me pull this down. Jump into the chat. What's going on, everybody? Brick something is here. Ray Paz is hanging out. Paints toy samples. Dare Bear Man Cave says happy Sunday. With the toy world being quiet, are we in for a mad rush soon? I don't know. I think not. I think I think we've sort of crested a wave in a way, and we're in a little bit of a lull. There's also, Chinese New Year is just about to hit. So there's usually a 4 to 6 week gap there. So I think, I think if we get another big rush, it'll probably be, February, March, late March, really, because you get Chinese New Year and then everything has to get on a boat. So we'll see. I don't know. But there's still lots of stuff coming. I mean, I still have a lot of stuff on the way. So and I don't know when a lot of it's gonna arrive, but yeah, and Brick says, I haven't been feeling like it's all that quiet, but I think it's based on what I'm collecting exactly and how those lines work. Got some outstanding pre-orders arriving, and it's going to be heavy. Rape says, "I wish it was quiet." um, let's see. Amanda says, "We were all worried." Yes, I know everybody was worried. Um, Honorable mentions is a theme lately among toy tubers. I'll tell you what, honorable mentions was a funny one with this because we were like, okay, we got to pick three, and three made it so that we could sort of fit it into a timely block as far as you shoot for 60 minutes, but you're probably going to go 90 minutes anyway. And three for each of us kind of made sense, and then a couple honorable mentions kind of just had to make it in because when we said, okay, there's 100 figures, pick top three, and then it was like really hard to pick top three, and it was sort of like I forget how quickly that thing does that. Um, we were really like, oh, there's like 96 honorable mentions. You know what I mean? You get your top three, you get 96 honorable mentions, and you get Falcon. So that was sort of the problem. Honorable mentions, there's not really any figures that like when I get them in hand, I'm like genuinely disappointed. And even joking about Falcon, I don't think Falcon is a bad figure. I think Falcon is like a 6 out of 10, where all the other classifieds are like 8, 9, and 10s. And so Falcon by default is the worst in the line, but he's still a lot better than some other lines. So when I'm nitpicking a figure when I'm opening it, I'm looking at, that bicep cut for example, right? And it doesn't make the toy less fun. It doesn't make, the enjoyment of that figure really less fun to me. It's more that it goes from like a 9.5 to like a 9.25. It doesn't really change my opinion of the figure. So honorable mentions um are all of them. It's everything that didn't make the top three. And in my top three, there's even one that's sort of like you could have put one of four releases in that same position, and it would have kind of worked out. And when we get there, that will probably make more sense. But anyway, um, Brick, I'm such a sucker for grids like this. I was trained by action figures, album covers, and magazine covers. And Amanda says Columbia House too. Buy your 10 CDs and pay for them later. Sure, exactly. Um, Ray Pass says the only ones he's been disappointed with are Breaker and Mole Rat. Breaker had loose legs, and Mole Rat arm came right out of the socket. Oh, crazy. I didn't get any Mole Rats, and I have multiple Breakers, and my Breakers were fine. Larry says April and May are going to be busy. I think it's I think as Brick kind of alluded to, I think it's always busy. I think it's just down to what lines you collect and sort of when certain waves land for so if you're in that sort of unlucky circumstance or lucky, if you prepaid, it doesn't really matter when they show up. You're happy regardless. But if you're sort of paying for things as they arrive, if the three or four lines that you collect all arrive at the same time, then it's a little bit harder. If you collect one line, it's not as bad, I guess. I don't know. Payne's Toy Sample says, I had a week. I didn't get anything from any line. When was that? That must have been a long ago. Um, Brick. And this is exactly it. Falcon is the worst figure in the G.I. Joe classified line, but calling it a bad figure is a bit of a stretch. It's not as good as I wanted it to be. Um, but it was here. Chris is trying to I think he means to be calling me. But we'll um maybe he's trying to message me, but anyway. Well, um here as well. What's AI collect is here. I might have just missed when he jumped in, and he probably said hello, but I might have missed that. So, um, anyways, let me very quickly message Chris and see what's going on. Um, Live now. Jump in if you can, but no stress if you can't. You know what? I'm gonna start with the honorable mentions and his and mine, and then I'll do his top three and my top three, and we'll or I'll do honorable mentions, and if he doesn't jump on, we'll save the top three for another day. We can do a short video today and sort of reschedule the top three for another day. I think we might go that route because there's actually lots to talk about. Um, there's other stuff going on too, so we could do a bit of a swerve. Call an audible. It's football Sunday, so we'll call an audible. If you know what that means, thank you for being here for one, because there's football that you'd probably rather be watching. Um, and if you don't, it's just a football thing. GameQuest says, in terms of recent releases, I absolutely love Wolf Spider. Is already a top 10 contender for me, but I'm getting some pushback about that. Y'all have any thoughts? It's got a great heft. I had some QC issues with my Wolf Spider. Um, I also have I also don't necessarily love that it was harder to get for some people, especially because it's a new character. I Top 10, I don't know. I would say it's not in my top 10. It's definitely not in my top 10. Um, for classified, it's not in my top 10 for 2024. Um, it's a great figure. It's a great figure. I mean, I'm curious to know more, why it would be in your top 10. I think there's better stuff, personally. But um AI says, "Let's go Lions." Yeah, I got a hard out at 3:30 because I want to go watch the Lions Giants game. And I will say this: I am living on the West Coast, but my parents are from the East Coast, from Southern Ontario, and so I will be cheering for the Lions as well. Although I don't really, I just want teams to beat the 49ers because I am a Seahawks fan. TJC says, "Evening all." Well, hello, TJC. What's going on? Wolf's a great figure, but still looks kind of generic to me. Yes, that's why I probably wouldn't have him in my top 10 either. There's some new stuff going on there. That's the other thing, is that some of the new stuff, like I had some issues, like I said, with QC, and some of the accessories just didn't. They're kind of I loved some of the accessories. Oh, Brick says Audible. I understand that reference. And our local team is doing some sort of sports ball. Yes, it is. It will affect the local freeways. Yeah, stay home, Brick. Actually, you'd be fine between about 3 o'clock and probably about 5:30 or 6 o'clock. Burke says, given your AWOC inclination, I guess lions are cooler choice than gold miners. Yes, that's true. That's absolutely true as well. Um, yes. AI says, grew up in Windsor, right across from Detroit. I am almost an honorary American. Yeah, my family's from the Niagara region, so the Buffalo Bills are sort of the team for that area. But I have family down in London as well, which they tend to lean a little bit more towards the Lions. So and Brick's streaming, so it's all good. He's not going anywhere. He doesn't have any issues. All right. Do you guys want to see our honorable mentions? Is that the way we should go? Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Shoot. I had this all set up. I had this all ready to go, but it kind of threw me for a loop um to have this go a little bit sideways. All right, but that's fine. We can do. Why is it not? Nope, that's not what I want. Nope, hold on. Bear with me. My apologies, guys. Just trying to work this out here. There it is. This is what I want. Now let's see if it'll let me do what I want with it. Nope. Why is it doing that? Nope. Why is that doing that? Come on. Okay, so it doesn't want to show the slides. Well, this is all working out very, very well. Thanks for being here, everyone. I want to do this, and then I want to do this. Very engaging, I'm sure. Um, Nolan's here. Now I feel like I need to be much more professional. Okay, let's see. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting somewhere. And Nolan's here just in time, so let's get going. We'll start off, like I said, with the honorable mentions, because that will effectively allow me to buy some time while we wait for Chris, who is on his way. So honorable mentions, as I said, like it would be easy to do 96 honorable mentions and forget that Falcon existed, hope that we get a better version. Um Grunt was on our honorable mention. Like both of us agreed that Grunt was right there, sort of on the verge of making the top three. Um, for me, Grunt didn't make the top three only because of that bicep cut. Honestly, Grunt would be in my top three classified figures if he didn't have just that straight across bicep cut that creates a little bit of a gap if the arm bends one way or the other. It drives me absolutely bonkers that given they did, probably like 80 figures that didn't have that, I just don't understand why they would they would do that. Like it seems like a step backwards to me personally. Then we have the retro carded Gung Ho, and I think this was the Gung Ho that everybody sort of wanted from the jump. Um, he didn't make my honorable mention list. This is, as I said, this is Chris's honorable mention list, which we'll get through, and then by the time we're through the honorable mentions, hopefully Chris will be joining us. Um, I took the Gung Ho from the second wave, combined it with the retro gung ho, and that made my kind of perfect gung ho. So I used the torso, legs, hat, and accessories, or sorry, weapons from this one. Combined those with the other version, and that to me is the gung ho that I wanted. He's updated, but he's still got the turquoise. I really wanted the turquoise, so that was I love it. I mean, I love this retro one. I'm more inclined, to like the figures um that get a little bit more of an update, that get a little bit more modernized, that get the Joe Pro, that get certain accessories and details and things like that updated. So the retro carded stuff doesn't always land for me personally. But that Snow Serpent got plenty of updates. It got plenty of cool new accessories. The color palette on that I think is more modern and a little bit better. They're gonna do a retro Snow Serpent, and it's gonna have the blues and grays that people sort of like, but I really like the the white and the navy and the black on the new Snow Serpent. I that one I really, really like, but the snow and I've said this before that the snow ones don't do as much for me, which is ironic, given that there's I live in Canada and people just assume it's snowy here all the time, but I prefer the more generic uh environment, for the figures. So it's a little it's they don't sort of hit as hard for me with the Arctic stuff. Um Then the Televiper. So the Televiper with the Trouble Bubble, I mean, this is kind of a no-brainer, and I absolutely love the Televiper. I don't think that they could have improved the Televiper. Um, Not quite on my honorable mentions list personally, and definitely not in my top 3. I think one of the issues that I had with the Televiper was the that they still went short sleeve, but then they painted the arms black. If they had just gone full blue sleeve, I would have been okay with that, but that to me is a little bit odd. And I know that they did it so that they could use the alternate heads, right? You have 3 alternate heads, and if they use any sort of skin tone on that, one of the alternate heads wouldn't have worked. I get it. I totally understand that. But they have fully sleeved arms. I don't know why they wouldn't just use a fully sleeved arm for, the Televiper. Maybe it didn't work as far as the accessories, and sort of the look that they wanted to go with. Maybe the full sleeve that they would have used was already being used for something else. So the mold wasn't available at the time. But the Televiper is one of my absolute favorites. And the Trouble Bubble, the vintage Trouble Bubble doesn't really do much for me. But the fact that we get this Trouble Bubble, I'm very, very happy with. I think the pace that we're getting the sort of world building stuff going on is really, really good, and I like that the Trouble Bubble was part of that. I'm gonna say relatively early on because we're looking at sort of wave 3. It was a 2023 release, so we really only have, 3 years of releases, and we've gotten a whole bunch of amazing stuff. So I'm very, very happy, with like I said, like everything that we've got so far. Um, all right, moving on to my honorable mentions, and I've got more. So I that's because I can because it's it's up to me to decide how many get shown. Chris sent me those 4. I have a few more. I still think the Duke from the first release is absolutely one of the best figures that they've done. Like still, and he might have been number 4 on my like, if we had done a top 5, Duke would have been in my top 5. Easy. The only reason that he's not is because of what I picked for number 1, which will make sense when I get to my number 1. Spirit, and Freedom are absolutely amazing. Bazooka, come on, it's Bazooka. Like, they did him exactly how I wanted. He's a bigger buck. They didn't fuss around and sort of change anything that they shouldn't in terms of the iconic stuff that he needed, but they changed just enough of it to make it feel a little bit more modern with some new details and things like that. So there we go. Now Chris is here, so I'm actually going to go back to his honorable mentions. Bring him on screen to talk about his honorable mentions.
Oh, buddy, how are you doing, my man?
You guys hear Chris? Because I can't.
You can't hear me?
Can
Oh, hang on, give me 2 seconds. Ah.
Oh, he'll be back. He'll be right back. He's ready to go, but Hankett says, was Spirit 2023? That feels like 100 years ago. I think Spirit was 2022. Actually, I don't think it was 2023. So this is like we picked our top 3 out of the first 100. So year wasn't sort of part of the. Hey, hello again.
Can you hear me?
Still can't hear you.
I don't know what to do.
Let's see here.
How
I
about now?
wonder.
How about now? Can you
Bear
hear me
with me
now?
for a moment. I'm gonna unplug something and see if I can fix. All right. Try again, Chris.
They say we can hear Chris. Chat can hear
Okay.
me.
And I can get rid of these and hear you, but there may now be a bit of an echo because I had to unplug my headphones. All right.
Dude, how
All
are you
good.
doing?
I'm great. I'm
Do
great.
you want to hear a funny
I'm
story?
Go ahead.
So I forgot it was Sunday. As in, I knew we were going to do this, and I was excited to do it, and I was really like relishing to jump on and chat with you and everything. And then I go, and then like all day I'm like doing loads of stuff, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do a news burst later because I've got like a Let's Talk Classified Nemesis Enforcer all lined up.
Mhm.
And then then all of a sudden, then it's like, right, the game's on. So Kate wanted to watch the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously. So my laptop was being
Yeah.
utilized upstairs, and
Yeah.
I'm like, right, I'll go get some food for tonight, some pizza, and then we'll come back. And then I'm like halfway there, and your message comes in, and I'm like, what? Is it? How is it Sunday already? I just finished work on Friday. How is it
Yeah.
Sunday? So my bad. I completely messed up, and I'm so sorry. But I'm here now, wasting time.
All good. It's all good. All right, let's jump right into it. I'll go through my sort of blurb that I had to launch before. And sort of we'll hit reset on the show basically. Um Oz is here. Oz says, "Boo, Chiefs. Ravens gotta win."
Well, that's apparently it's all pre-planned, isn't it?
It's
According to
it's
the
scripted, so it doesn't matter. Yeah,
yeah.
it's predetermined. So we're taking a look at our top 3 figures of the first 100, but we live in a world, believe it or not, where there are 110 current releases in the classified line, which actually amounts to like 120 figures, 5 pets, 9 vehicles. I think I included the Dragonfly in that. Like, this is bonkers. This is
Yeah.
and it's this big. Like, these aren't little anymore.
I'm not sure if you can't see mine. It's there in that darkness right there.
It and when we were discussing it, like, this was not like there's 3 standout figures and then there's a bunch of, like, mediocre stuff. It's like
The level is ridiculous, man. Like it's just this marine haircut all the way along in
Mhm,
terms of there's no spikes for me. Like it's just
mhm,
like one. It's like an audio wave, just like a hum all the way along.
mhm.
It's amazing. Well, there is one that's bottoming out a little bit in that run. I think we all know who that
Yes.
is, Falcon. But yeah, you're right. There's the quality's so high.
Yeah, and and even Falcon, like we've said, is a 6 out of 10, not like a 1. It's just that objectively, there's gotta be a worst figure in the line, and he just happens to be the easy pick. Now, that being said, we've had multiple versions of lots of figures, so I don't think that Lenny and the team doing the designs is well, I think we know that they're not really happy with how that figure turned out. So I don't think they're just gonna leave Falcon alone and be like, well, we screwed up. We're never gonna touch him again. I
Oh,
think
could you
sooner rather
imagine?
than later, we will probably see another head sculpt for Falcon,
I
whether
hope
it's
so.
introduced in like a Night Force or Tiger Force or Python Patrol infiltrator type thing. Wouldn't that be like an alternate head in a Python Patrol figure? So it's like, oh, he's a sneaky spy, but then you're like, I don't actually need that head for that figure. I could pop it on my Falcon. But anyway, let's get into your honorable mentions. We'll do this. We'll get through honorable mentions quickly, and then we'll get into our top 3. I
Yeah.
was already saying we already kind of took a look at this slide before you jumped on. Grunt was in my honorable mentions too
Oh
because it's
yeah.
just like He's like the sort of epitome of a GI Joe. Like it doesn't even need. It didn't have to be grunt. It could have been here's a GI Joe, and it's like perfect. I mean, the accessories, the figure, the sculpt, the detail.
Yeah. Grunt's amazing, and he's low key amazing too. Like
Mhm.
he had no right to be that good. I was just expecting
Yes.
some
Yeah.
sort of like proper boring, all green, nothing on him, and then oh no, here we get this cool secondary. We get this wicked little flip down device we get with
Mhm.
deco on it and tampo on it. We get like the steel core head, which is amazing as like
Mhm. Yep.
like a troop builder option. You get the sunbow laser rifle. You get really cool accessories, and the figure is just satisfying. There's a real
Mhm.
satisfying visual. There's a satisfying amount of like accessories and stuff. It's just a solid figure, and great that he can be not only grunt but also a troop builder as well. Perfect
Mhm.
stuff.
Mhm. Um, the retro gung ho. I was saying I've actually kit bashed the standard one and the retro one to kind of create the classified gung ho that I wanted
Yeah,
because I think the appeal of the retro one is that turquoise.
yeah, big time.
So for me, like I took those legs, but I put the modern vest. I basically took this
Oh
figure and
right.
put the modern vest on him.
Interesting. What about head sculpts? Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the bald one, or do you prefer the kind of like MMA? I forget the guy's name, but he looks just like that MMA fighter with the.
Yeah, I honestly I didn't have a problem with the first one, but this one seems more gung ho to me. So
More
I did
hoey.
keep this, yeah, more hoey, more gungy, more hoey. Um, but that other head sculpt is now great for a custom figure or kit bashing or whatever. Um,
I've just been reorganizing my entire classified collection, and it's funny. Like I kind of had I hadn't gone back to the early ones for a long time. They've been on
mhm,
display, but I hadn't really looked at them or given them any love.
mhm,
And
yep.
picking Gung Ho up, I'm like, this is really Chuck Liddell. Thank you, Ostradamus, and AI
Mhm.
Collectibles, and probably about 20 other people probably said it as well. But thank you guys.
Exactly.
Yeah, like I think the only thing I had an issue with on the first Gung Ho was the fact that the guns and the backpack just don't really go together as like designed.
Yeah.
You know you're trying to I was trying to put like one in clips in quite nicely, and then the
Mhm,
other one is like you have to kind of flex the tabs real like closed almost
mhm.
to try and have it take the gun, and it's just like, and there's three spots for guns, and yet all three guns are too long to all be
Yes.
on the backpack at the same time.
Yes.
So I think that was a bit of a miss in terms of storage. I think they've worked out that there's a better ways now in
Yeah.
storing rifles and stuff, and I think if he'd have had that um design, if you'd have had the peg design instead, I think that'd have been great. To peg the
Mhm.
two rifles on the side of the backpack, and then you hold the other one. Jobs are good. But they, unfortunately, it is a mess, and that backpack just will not hold those guns half the time.
No, and it's there I give them a little bit of slack with that because he's figure number 7 as far
Yes,
as
of course.
releases go. So I think the miss with that one is using Nerf guns, but then not re-releasing those Nerf guns with
Why didn't we
with
get
like
Nerf GI Joe in that way? Why did we get it in that terrible one that got cancelled? But that didn't
Mhm.
like not enough pre-orders, so they cancelled it.
Well,
That
it was
one that just
ugly.
had
Let's be honest. It was it was not. They
GI
did
Joe
not
one
do
side,
it
Cobra
well.
on the other side. It was just, yeah, it was
Yeah.
a mess, man. It was a real missed opportunity. And also, the Nerf blaster had nothing to do with GI Joe. It was just
No.
a one. It's like almost one they just had knocking about. Let's just stick loads of stuff on that. It was such
Yeah.
a throwaway, pointless maneuver. And they had Sunbow rifles, Flint's pistol. They had all sorts of options. They had all the weapons they had in the classified series at that point. That not even just on Gung Ho, but like on loads of there were Baroness had one.
Mhm.
Yes, Jeremy. Nerf
Yeah,
XMLR,
I agree with
definitely.
Jeremy 100%. That's what I wanted too. But even if we didn't get that, like, in the first couple waves, there was like half a dozen existing Nerf guns that they could have done a line of GI Joe
Yep.
classified Nerf.
Yep.
We have Mr. Beast Nerf. How is that like? Where does that crossover make sense
I don't
compared
know.
to you've
But
got a toy line that has these as accessories for the figures.
yeah.
All you got to do is paint them green. And away you go.
Can you give me 2 minutes? I'll be right back. Sorry. Give me 2
Yes,
minutes. It's
absolutely. I'm
because
gonna just check in with the chat here for a second.
I'll be right back.
Jeremy, 100% Sonic Fighter Falcon, and I know that I can speak on Chris's behalf. We both want that Sonic Fighters deco. That deco, the gray kind of digital camo, is so good. I almost like that deco more than I like the standard Falcon figure. But it's hard. It's hard to knock, the original Falcon off of that top spot. But let's see here. There was a few others that I wanted to bring up. Nolan, I'm still waiting for Dusty version 3. Needs Sandstorm. Absolutely. I would love that. Any figure that came with an animal companion in like version 2 or version 3, I hope we get to those versions because I want more animals. We've had what did I say, 5 pets. Now I think 2 of those are timber. And we had a crocodile, we've got junkyard, we've got I'm drawing a blank. Spirit and Freedom.
Freedom. We've got the snake from Serpentor as well. Don't forget that.
Oh, we've got Serpentor Snake. We've got Polly. I totally forgot Polly.
Polly.
There's
more.
We don't have 5 pets. We have way more than that. What am I saying? There's like 10. And there's a bunch
2
more
timbers,
coming.
Fiona, Diablo and Georgie, is it? That's 5.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's a good point. If you count those,
Junkyard.
There's 3 crocodiles in there.
Junkyard.
But yeah, any version of a figure that came with an animal companion was one that I wanted as a kid. As a kid, I kind of just wanted the animals. GameQuest says Grunt just called back so well to that vintage Real American Hero. Absolutely, and but it's still like I think doesn't he have a Joe Pro? Yeah, but he still has the Joe Pro. He still has like you said, like the tablet screen. Like there's still enough modern updates there that it doesn't feel like a retro figure. And that's where they nail it for me is add the Joe Pro and a weapon that looks a little more futuristic than what came with the vintage stuff. And I'm happy. That's all you have to do to make me happy. Which is why I'm a shill. But but it's just I mean these are just so much fun. Ostradamus says Fiona is down as
Sorry, go on. Continue.
Fiona's down as one of the best classified figures to date. Agreed. I think I didn't put Timber in my top 3 simply because he wasn't released on his own. Otherwise, Timber 100% would have been either number 1 or number 2.
Does that count as an animal companion on the Snow Serpent?
the hood? It's close.
Does that count?
It's close. Because there's a lot going on there. You get a head, you get paws, you get I think there's even a tail on it, really. So
does the
almost
does the kitty on Outback shirt count as an animal companion as well? Because that probably should.
There's another potential animal companion coming up in my honorable mentions. But let's move on to your next honorable mention, which was the Televiper, which of course comes with the Trouble Bubble. Both of which are absolutely awesome. I absolutely needed Televipers in my collection. The Trouble Bubble I could have lived without, but now that I have multiple Trouble Bubbles, they're awesome. They're so much fun because they're ridiculous.
They're great. Absolutely phenomenal. In fact, my one's up there. And it's unfortunately it's kind of tucked behind Serpentor because of space. But like I want like loads of those on flight stands and all sorts. They look so good.
All right, we'll just keep rolling. We're gonna roll through the honorable mentions now. My first 3 honorable mentions. I picked 3 G.I. Joe, 3 Cobra. I got Duke, Spirit, and Bazooka. Absolutely love these figures. Um, the only reason that these weren't in my top 3, or like these weren't my top 3 or whatever, that retro Duke, I think I'm waiting on that retro Duke to sort of see. I also, the backpack doesn't stay on as well as I would have liked it to, which they
Right.
fixed with some. Um,
It's hit and miss,
he
isn't
doesn't
it,
have
with
the same
backpacks?
weapon storage that they do now either, so it's a little bit of like he came so early that there's things that they are doing better now. Um, Spirit isn't in my top 3, um,
But he's phenomenal.
but he's phenomenal. I mean, I don't I it it's I love that figure. I genuinely it's
Another
visually appealing in
satisfying.
terms of the
Yeah.
color. Yeah, I mean, it like, the accessory loadout is really, really good. I think they did a great job as far as balancing, the his, his heritage and the figure, and sort of correcting some of the issues that were associated with the vintage figure.
Yeah.
Um, and Freedom is great. He might get knocked down a little bit because swapping the wings, you can break them if you're not super careful, but
My problem with Freedom is my problem with Freedom. Just cut that out and just have that on loop. My problem with Freedom is the fact that the legs are a little bit what's the word? Playmobil. I feel like the kind of hip joint kind of connect. Like I think they'd have just been better off with ball joints, and I don't know why they didn't do that. Because yes, you want to kind of like line the legs up to pour in, but you can do that with with them. It's not that difficult. Plus,
yeah,
you've got more freedom, yeah, to for posing after the fact. And I feel like
yeah.
I don't know, just doing that is I don't know. There's just yeah, I don't know.
I might have been I might have been happier if Freedom only had the open wings and better articulation on the legs,
Yeah,
because the full and then I wish Polly was the same. Like, Polly just sort of sitting on Shipwreck's shoulder, to me, is there's it's I was disappointed because it came after Freedom. And I was like, "Freedom's awesome. Polly's gonna be great." And I'm like, "Nah, it's a bit of a plug."
yeah,
But oh well. And then Bazooka is just Bazooka. I mean, he was one of my favorite figures. I tend to like the characters that, like, maybe look a little less military. So I never knew what that jersey was until, the last few years as an adult, getting back into collecting GI Joe, learning exactly what jersey that was. But, like, I knew it
yeah,
was just a football jersey. Um
yeah.
and my only complaint with Bazooka is that I thought he should have had one more weapon. Just one more would have probably knocked him up into the top 3 for me.
It wouldn't be called
Uh,
bazooka then, though. It'd be called bazooka rifle or bazooka
Bazooka pistol.
bazooka knife.
Good point. It's Chad is here, and shout out to Chad. He's gifted 5 hardly articulated memberships to who knows who. I don't get to
Wow.
see that in my chat, but you know who you are. Um, Hank, it says the box art for Bazooka is so awesome. Yeah, I was I was a little bit bummed when they moved away from the window packaging to the full art boxes, but then they looked great. But then when they moved to the next version of the box, I actually like that version more. And now my complaint is that the boxes aren't consistent. But I open them. I'm opening everything anyway. So at the end of the day, don't really care. They could put them in a brown paper bag. It could have said
Yep.
bazooka on a brown paper bag, and I would have been like, "Great, here's my money. Thank you for this amazing action figure." And then I would have just tore it open. I wouldn't have even kept the bag. I'm keeping half the boxes because they just look so cool.
Yeah.
Um, Jeremy, 80% of the line could easily be anyone's top 3. That was the problem. That is the
This
problem.
is there aren't many lines, right, where I want to display every single figure. Even Falcon's up there. Like there aren't many lines where I'd want all like everything displayed. Like and even well, it's also quite difficult for most lines, to do that, especially if they're really long and they've been out for a long period of time and there's lots of it. But with classified, I just want all of it on display. I want every single figure out. I've got each and every, like, where you've got like there's only a few figures that aren't actually up there, but like, where you've got like multiple Baronesses, multiple Destros,
Yeah.
multiple Cobra
Yep.
Commanders. I just want all of them out there. I want all of them on show. Like it's I've got the field variant Duke, regular Duke, and Tiger Force Duke all out there. I've got
Mhm.
Scarlet, field variant Scarlet. Do you know what I mean? Like that, if there's a version of it out, it goes in the old display behind me.
I'm right there with you, and I mean, we chatted about Space Danger last week or 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, and that's I'm looking at redoing, my whole display behind me, and it's like, I wanna have all my troop builders out because it looks cool, and I got them to look cool like that, but I can't have, 12 Cobra Troopers because I don't have room for that. And I want all the Dukes, all the Scarlets, all the Destros, all the
Yeah,
Cobra Commanders, but like you said, it then you kinda lose track of what's there because you're just it's, like, too much, so, yeah, I'm right there with you. There's nothing that's like, "Nah, he can just sit in the bin," and Falcon's up there too. He's at the back. I didn't turn his head around like his tank or the yeah,
that was
his
so funny.
that was
That was
awesome.
so funny. Oh
Um,
god,
but
genius.
But I mean, to Jeremy's point that 80% of the line could be people's top 3, I would go so far as to say, like, out of 100, 99 could be in people's top 3, because I think Falcon's universally kind of looked at as maybe a top 20, but but
I
not
mean,
a
there's a
top
lot of
3.
that. There's a lot of that stuff where people have like specific characters that they
Mhm,
really
mhm,
vibe with, and like everyone is being accounted for apart from Falcon fans at the moment.
mhm.
But everyone else seems to be has gotten some sort of high quality version of their character out. Major Blood in there as
Including
well. Yeah,
Prophet Director Destro, which is a figure that I absolutely love, and when
it's amazing.
people kinda roll their eyes like, "Why would they do that? What is the point?" The figure is phenomenal. It is so much fun, and that's why they did it, in my opinion. I don't know
Yeah,
that to be a fact, but
yeah,
but
they
the
did.
fact that that figure sort of exists in the lore of sort of GI Joe collectors, and people knew that they almost made it, and then in the modern line they did make it, but it was like a minimal, release, and it didn't ever get everywhere, and it, so for them to just come out of the gates, I think he fell into like wave between like waves 2 and 3 basically. To come out of the gate so early with a gold head, sunglasses with gradient lenses, flaming money, and a leopard skin the cape. Come on. I
It's
mean,
amazing. It's amazing.
I get if people don't like that figure objectively because they don't like the leopard print, they don't like the look or whatever.
Yeah.
Um But as far as, like, the brand team going like, "Hey, let's do something a little bit different," I give them so much credit, like I said, for doing this so early and basically setting the precedence, um, for things that may show up in people's top 3s. Um, with Major Blood, I thought that was when he came out, he was my favorite. Like, in that moment of time where we were still like, most people were on lockdown, you had to, like, fight people to get Major Blood in the streets or buy it on eBay or ask a friend. Everybody had different ways to get it, but,
Yeah.
this one still, I think, is phenomenal. The only reason he's not in my top 3 is quite simply well, when I get to my top 3, I'll sort of explain why Blood didn't make it in, but he was sort of on the bubble. Zarana
Serana.
is and I totally forgot that you do that. That was not a plant. I didn't do that on purpose so that you would have to say that. Um,
Genius.
but she's again, like, they took a vintage figure that is kinda cool, and it's a character that everybody wants, and then just, like, ratcheted up the sort of detail and the personality and the charm,
Mm. Yeah.
and then giving the alternate, hair, um like, again, genuinely, like, one where, like, you kind of want two because it's hard to pick which one of the hairstyles looks better. Um, phenomenal, phenomenal.
Yeah,
And
really
then
good versatile version of her, big time.
I mean, if he isn't the goodest good boy, then I don't know who is, because the articulation in this, I I have multiples of both versions just
Yep,
for the wolf. You know, Snake Eyes is in my fodder bin, but I've got a whole pack of wolves at this point. My kids love
brilliant.
playing with this one. I love playing with this one. Bring on more animal companions, because if they execute them, this well, I think we're gonna get some really cool stuff. And the full sized animals, the animals that are larger,
Yep,
they're absolutely nailing. Timber and Fiona is sort of the prime examples of, like, they are doing such a good job.
junkyard.
Um, well, I don't have him yet, so I can't. I don't know, but from what I've heard,
Safe
yeah,
to say
absolutely. I
they're
mean,
doing well. Yeah,
yeah, they're
safe to say
doing they're
everyone loves
doing
him.
just fine. Um, all right, should we move into the top three because we're an hour in? Let's
Damn son.
get going here.
Did you cover all of my honourable mentions before I got here?
Yes.
What? I can't even remember what they were now.
No, that was them. Yours were the first ones. Yours were the first four there. So,
Were they? I can't remember what I even said now. That's hilarious.
do you
Anyway,
remember what your top three is, or should I just show the slide?
just show the slides. Will literally surprise me.
This is your
Oh,
number three.
of course. Tiger Force Outback. How could it not be? This
Hmm.
figure in general, like the regular version, this version, Outback's a winner, man. Like he's just a freaking awesome character, wicked design, and then obviously the iconography of that shirt, which
Hmm.
just like took the world by storm with the European exclusive and South American Forestero version as well. Even got in the mix. So he was certainly known, more so in like recent years, I think, within the fandom. But he's definitely one of the foreign kind of releases that people tend to know more than most. I mean, I think
Yeah. Hmm.
there's a lot of foreign figures that have become very iconic over the years. I think he's definitely one of them. He's up there, maybe the biggest one because of that ridiculous kitty shirt.
I
But then,
I think you're right, and I would agree with that. Like the international sort of exclusive figure that people know is this one, and then that tends to be like the bridge to, like, the South American stuff, the Argentinian releases, and then other European releases and things like that. Um, and I think that, as you said, just the look of this figure, even if people don't know the background, this is still a really good looking figure. That orange
hmm,
shirt, the white hair instead of the, like, they basically reversed, the other figure, which seems
genius.
super simple, right? He just, like, well, he's a redhead with a white shirt. Let's make him a white head with a orange shirt. I mean, I guess it doesn't quite. Um, but I'll be honest, this version is better than the standard version, and I think it's down to they switched to, like, that digital print for the face by the time
Yeah,
they got around to the standard one, so this face looks so much better. My nitpick with this figure is that they updated the shirt.
oh, right, I see. Yeah, they went with the college logo rather than the college football logo rather than
I
the
wanted the soft kitty,
yeah, the one that you'd find on
because
like
I
a
just think,
market in like somewhere in like on like a cheap t-shirt somewhere with a cat
yeah,
face
yeah,
on it.
yeah, yeah. It seems more like a t-shirt, yeah, that you would just end up with accidentally, whereas this seems more, I don't know, like, this is, like, tougher, and somehow it kind of, like, doesn't. I wanted it to not be so tough, if that makes sense. Like you said, I want it to be like a survivalist thing where he just found the shirt somewhere, and that's why
he
it's like.
stole he stole it for 9-year-old girl and when he was
Yeah,
in the forest.
exactly.
Yeah.
It came off a clothesline in Thailand or something.
Yeah, this one is
Um,
definitely they've definitely gone I joke about kind of college football logo, but it's definitely that vibe. It's got that kind of thing. You almost see like the Cincinnati Bengals could have this on their
That's what
helmet
it makes
instead
me
of
think of, and maybe that's why I don't like it, because I don't like the Bengals.
not a fan of the Bengals. Yeah. I also used to love their helmets with the tiger stripes on them, though. But
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of the Bengals. Obviously, I was a Bears fan, but as a kid. But the Bengals, I always loved the tiger striped helmets because Tiger Force. But yeah. Anyway, my only issue with this figure is the fact that the magazine is very loose in the very wobbly, because this was like one of the first ever wobbly rifles, and the only
It's a noodle.
saving grace with this rifle is that it isn't warped, but it
Yeah.
is really soft. And the magazine, when you put it in, it gets in there, but not very tight. And I lost
Mhm.
one a magazine in Maine when I was taking pictures of it in on like near the water. And then we get home and I'm like, where's this bloody magazine gone? Like lost. Thankfully at the time, Corey was still working at Hasbro and he was my neighbor. So I would like just go around his and say, hey Corey, have you got an Outback, spare Outback magazine? He's like, I'm sure I can hook you up.
Oh, let me look in this bin of like
He had a
magazines
pile,
that I have.
apparently had a pile of Outback rifles for some reason. So he just gave me a full rifle, which was nice. So thank you very much, Corey. Shout
Nice.
out, Corey.
Jeremy Kimberlin says I glued the mag in. You know what? I'm on the verge of doing that with all of them, just because with I think the exception of like two, they don't have storage for the mags on them. So to have it be removable, while I think it's a cool feature, doesn't really seem necessary in a weird way. It's
I
fun to
think,
pose them and like take a really bad, toy photography picture of them like loading the magazine in.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but no one wants to see those pictures as far as the ones that I'm taking at least. So it's not as though,
the
that's something that I need to do.
the other thing is, was it Big Ben, the officer, and I guess the Python officer by
Mhm.
default. And is there another one that has magazine storage on the back belt?
Those were the only two that I could think of.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's just those two at the moment. But yeah, I think that'll happen more often now going forward. But yeah, yep.
Brick said the Bangles were great. Susanna Hoff's easily one of my favorite 80s musicians.
Fun. Oh, I
um,
like it, Brick. Something. I just realised you were jokingly referring to our Bengals chat. I see now. Eternal Flame, banger.
my number three is the original Bat.
While you talk about
Battle
that, I'm going
Android
to need 2
Trooper.
more minutes. Sorry. While you talk about that, I need 2 more minutes. So carry on.
Absolutely, absolutely. I
Was it
was
working?
admittedly surprised by how much I like this figure. This is one of those figures where when they sort of announced that they were doing it, I was like, okay, that's cool. The Bat needs to be in the line. The Bat wasn't something that I loved as a kid. Like I didn't love the vintage figure because you lose all the parts,
Hmm.
and it's in the cartoon. It was so disposable that I was like, eh. But then when they previewed this and sort of posted the pictures with the arm attachments and the updates and sort of the things that they did, the removable chest piece, the alternate head, I was blown away. And then when I got this thing in hand, Chris, like you said about other figures, this was so incredibly satisfying in hand. Like it
Yep.
was it was
Kitty said.
so much fun to play with.
Yes.
That it was instantly one of my favorites, and the three that I pre-ordered was not enough, and I had to sort of go back and get more. And now I have six, and I'm like, I think I might want more because they are so disposable, in the lore. But I'm like, no, I should probably pump the brakes. I'm probably good. Um,
I need a bat
yes.
display on here. At the moment, I'm trying to separate everything into like factions sort of thing,
Mhm.
themes sort of things. Problem is, if you've got a little Arctic setup, your Arctic bat needs to be in there. So I need like
Yeah.
another one to put in like an actual bat kind of display because there's so many of them now. It's great.
Mhm.
Soon to be another one as well. Lols. That I have jokingly accidentally revealed multiple times now. But yeah, that I'm looking forward to the IG one.
I'm very curious to see the deco on that, because that's like in a similar way with like the crimson bat. I was like, do I need a red bat? And then I saw it and I was like, yes, I do.
Yep.
It's something that didn't exist before now, something that I really need now. Turns out it is. Um, but yeah, this thing absolutely blew me away. And I still when I sort of pull this off the shelf and get it in hand, like the fact that they went more robot than the vintage in terms of like the articulation in the
Hmm.
arms and stuff like that, I just absolutely love. And this thing poses so well too. The way that it's sculpted, the articulation feels almost unlimited in terms of like
Hmm.
what you kind of want to do with it. I mean, it there is a limit, but
I know that there was a weird complaint I heard from fans early on about all the different chest plates and everything. And I was thinking, well, why would you be upset about having different options? I don't understand that. Like, I've never understood. So, well, why would you need to cover that? Like, I'm like, well, maybe it's just to give you the option of display, sort of thing. Like, obviously, you have like one that is like, not damaged. You have one that is
yeah.
damaged. You have a head that's damaged and one that isn't. You're literally given all these options with one figure, and
Mhm,
you can buy as many as you want, and you can mix and match
mhm,
and change all that stuff. Like, it is. This is the ultimate. This is the ultimate troop builder because there's so many different ways you can display them.
mhm. Yeah, and I think, if I could have gotten one more chest plate, it would have been like a smoked kind of transparent
Oh,
one.
yeah, clear one, yeah.
Yeah, like clear would have to me would have looked not quite right. I've seen people 3D print like a yellow transparent one that looked really, really good as well. But I thought the color match is kind of
It's like
funny between.
opaque, basically, so you can
Mhm,
just about yeah,
mhm.
catch all the
You can sort of
details,
see
but
the tubes because there are other colors, but yeah, yeah. Like a
yeah.
dark smoked one so that you know that there's, mechanical stuff under there, but Jeremy says OG Bat is my second favorite army builder behind Cobra Viper, which is also a very, very good figure. Ray Paz says my first classified figure was the first Alley Viper. That's a solid figure with tons of accessories. That one only didn't make my top three because, well, you'll see very soon. I have two army builders in my top three, and I didn't want to go 3 for 3 for my army builders. Um, but your number two
Lols.
is all white with a little brown.
Snowy
Um,
J. Yeah, he's a good one.
he is a good one. And again, this one was one that I was surprised how much I liked it. But go ahead, it's your number two. You talk about it.
So this one for me, again, another extremely Chiefs just won, by the way. Extremely so it isn't scripted, is it? Obviously not. So yeah, with
They're
this
gonna
one,
have to
Snow
edit
Job.
all those graphics.
I know they're going to change all the colors now and everything. Yeah, so Snow Job. This one was one that there's so much about this actually. So Adam basically came to me and said, like, what are your top three so far of the classified series? I'm like, it's really hard to say because like they're all freaking amazing. And this is the kind of level we went up to with deluxe. I think was this the first
Yes.
major like increase to a deluxe figure? I know we had deluxe figures in the past, but was this the first like, wow, there's a lot of stuff with this guy? I can't remember if there's anyone before that.
I
Was
don't
there anyone
think so.
before that?
Like so before that, as a deluxe offering, we got Slaughter and we got Kamakura.
Exactly.
So
So
to get this
yeah,
loadout, like I think it was announced like when it was name only, they were like, "Oh, it's gonna be a deluxe figure," and people were like, "Oh, great! Like we're gonna pay $50 for Snow Job with skis and a rifle, big
yeah.
freaking deal." But when
And
you
look at
saw
this.
the
Look at this. Honestly, not just that, but here we are with finally with a very and innovative, practical, and what's the other thing I'll say? Effective method of storage on a backpack. Like this is the first win, I think, in terms of storage on backpacks we've had since like I don't know. I can't even think of what came before that in previous like eras, but like this was just one of those things where it was like, oh, now we can put the skis in, and then they've got tabs that come round, and tab in, and it's just like, I don't know, it just feels good. It feels like the tabs go in. There's nothing worse, right, than having a secondary where you've got two holes and two little tabs, and you push them together and nothing happens because
Yeah.
of physics. Basically, it's
Yeah.
like that doesn't work, and it doesn't work. Like, you have to like have special tools in order to pinch like from the other side the
Hmm.
interior of the jacket or whatever to put the two pins together. I
Hmm.
hate that so much. Like, that happens a lot on like 4-inch figures, like Pursuit of not Pursuit of Cobra, but that era as well, the 4-inch modern,
Yeah. Hmm.
where you'd have those really annoying tabs that just wouldn't work. The tabs
Or
on
they're
that
really
back,
overbuilt, and then they're like chunky, and
they
they
don't go
look
into the
out of
hole.
scale.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
another thing. That's another problem. Yeah, if they kind of stick out too much and are a bit
Mm.
weird. Yeah, and that's the problem that you have with this stuff. So to gather backpack that has tabs that are actually effective and easy to utilize, and you can go pump pump, take the ski out, pump pump, take the ski out, and it's just like sick. I love that. Not just that though, ski poles go on there. Sniper rifle goes in there. Like, you get like all that gear on his backpack on his back, and then you've got the options: the hood up,
Snowshoes clip on
hood
the bottom.
down. There's so much. The snowshoes, you're right. Yes, they also clip on there. This thing is a tour de force of how to store things on an action figure. And you're always going to have like outliers with deluxe figures, like alternate heads, um, alternate hands,
Mhm.
other annoying things like that, where you don't have anywhere to store them because
Yeah.
their hands, they go on your blooming wrists, or their heads, they go on your neck.
Yes, yes.
Or you've got two options for hoods up and down. So it's like, well, you're gonna have those kind of things where some stuff ends up, in the bin, in not the bin, but in like the parts,
In your
organization
storage. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
tray.
Not on the figure itself on the shelf kinda thing.
But this again, the,
Quest
the
says
only there's two things I will say before you talk about this Game Quest thing. Sorry,
mhm,
two things I just want to mention. One is, I like that they went this route with the particular figures deco, did something different, did a little bit
yes.
quirky, bit of
Mhm.
grey, off white almost, and then brown, because I think you have a potential for a retro release with this guy, and you could do. You could literally just strip him down to his like snow job esque retro look, give
Yep.
him just what he would have, the ski poles, and then give him a retro backpack and the sunbow rifle, and you've got a retro version. So, and then all white in. Do you know
Agreed.
what I mean?
Yep.
Done and dusted. That's all I wanted to say. That's why I love Snowjob.
No, I agree, to my point of, like, I like them to be a little bit updated. This fit that bill perfectly. Like, um, having the little bit of gray just to break up the white, having
Yeah.
the snowshoes, having, I was at first I was kind of disappointed that Snow Job didn't come with a Snow Job rifle.
Right.
But then I was
Right.
like, but this one's pretty good. So I don't really know why I'm complaining about something that I didn't get when something that I did get is actually really awesome. Um, and we now have the Snow Job rifle sort of coming out with other figures,
Lots of them.
which is
Looks like,
great. I mean,
yeah.
it's totally fine with me. Game Quest says I thought I might have been reaching contentment with my classified collection when Snow Job was released, and then it was like, oh heck no, they just leveled up. Incredible figure, and what's next? I mean, yeah, that's kind of it. Tristan McDonald, Double O Snake Eyes was deluxe too. Larry Reed
Yeah.
said
Right.
SDCC Zartan came with a ton,
Yeah, but they're not.
but
No, this is deluxe price point 34.99. I'm talking about, not
in
not
the
a
standard line, yeah, I
not
knew.
a
I
con
yes, this was the
exclusive.
first.
Yeah, like
Mhm,
Snake Eyes Double O was like a special first, like that started the line sort of thing. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's not what I'm talking about. Because if you kind of like go through the kind of the action figure like history of it with classified, when you
mhm,
get to Kamakura, it was like, this is going to be a deluxe figure for some reason. This is a deluxe figure because obviously we don't have it in the budget to make like alternate heads with single
yeah,
carded figures just yet, which was effectively, that's what it was. And it wasn't
yeah,
like, but the thing was, people did still recognize that that's a lot to pay more for a figure that doesn't really come with a lot of stuff. And then you look at other figures that were released single carded, that came with a ton of stuff, and you're just like, what difference does it? Why wasn't he just another figure in, in a wave? So
Yeah.
yeah, but no, I think that was the one I was getting at, was like, that was the first, like, oh, this is what you're getting now for 34.99, and it's like, yikes.
And I think within the standard release schedule line, because Snake Eyes is an exception because it was sort of a pre-release.
Yep.
We also before that had the Supreme Cobra Commander.
Yes.
And then we had, some deluxe, SDCC stuff and sort of event release special items.
It sort of
But this
meant something else, didn't it? Back
yes.
before they changed their price points and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Like, it meant something. It just meant this is a figure with a ton of stuff, basically. And
Mhm.
they still came out. Yeah, we still got all that, but it was all of a sudden, it was just like, you know, we're getting a lot more for what, I would have, okay, genuinely, that Kamakura, I really like that figure. I think it's awesome. But
Yeah, me too.
I think price point wise, just like
It was
the
wrong.
Viper 3-pack was too
Yeah.
expensive, in my opinion, as
Mhm.
well. I thought that was way too expensive. Still got it.
Me too.
And then regretted it. No, but like, I get with like the Sarge, I kind of understood that his was license as well. On top of that,
Mhm.
there was other things to consider with the Sarge, and I think you're kind of almost paying for the privilege of having a Sergeant Slaughter in the line, more
Yeah.
than you are for the figure and accessories, if you know what I mean. And obviously they
Mhm.
did a few cute extra things with him. The little action figure on a carded, little
Yeah,
carded
and
figure.
I was okay with it. Like the price difference there to me, like you said, was kind of I didn't like it, but I mean, you got extra hands, you got quite a few little accessories, and that little carded figure I thought was great. It's they did it in a way where you can open it and still put it back together, which
Yeah,
to me adds value. I don't know if it changes the cost for them, but the value there was fine for me. I wasn't that offended that it was a little bit more. Tristan McDonald does make a good point. The Profit Director Destro was a little bit more because it was an exclusive. I think that was the way that they sort of got around that.
fan
Jeremy
channel.
says
Yeah,
it was a fan. That was the first fan channel. Now that doesn't change the price. And PDD was 25 when those other figures were still 20.
yeah.
So I mean, I think they were kind of testing the waters a little bit there.
That's the thing.
In some ways.
They had to really gauge what I think people were willing to spend and what they were expecting from certain price
Mhm.
points. Problem was, like, throw into that. And I know people haven't really grasped this, but when it started, they didn't have a big budget at all. I think people just
Yeah.
assume Hasbro are just like, they just throw money at everything, but no, they are really strict when it comes to this kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, there are certain aspects where they do urinate money away, but
Hmm.
in terms of, like, per brand to brand, you will get a budget as a team, and you have to stick to that budget with engineering in tow to work out what can we do, what can't we do. And they've talked about this, but I don't think I don't honestly don't think people grasp it necessarily. But at that time, that first year, the budget was so small. I don't have the number, but I know it was ridiculous. And then the second year, they were given the same budget to do the same thing. And then, like, or was it I might be getting things wrong here. Either the third year they were restricted again, and it was only because they were super successful that the budget was then changed, and the design thing changed, and the price points were brought in, and all that kind of stuff. So if you go, like, I'm thinking, I'm going kind of like line plan by line plan, but effectively, if you're going by year, the first year budget was crap, the second year budget was worse, and they had to do better. They had to
Yeah,
do
they had to do more
more.
figures
They
for
had to
the
do
same
more
amount
with
of
less
money.
budget.
Yeah.
Crazy. And then eventually, when it started to really kind of catch, which it
Mhm.
had been pretty successful already, mainly because, again, it was difficult to get hold of. I think scarcity played a part
Mhm.
on this a little bit. But yeah, the initial budgets were minimal.
Mhm. Well, and to your point of like line planning, sometimes you'll see a figure that gets a little bit less, and sometimes a figure gets a little bit more, and people are like,
Yep.
"Well, how come these are the same price?" And it's like, well, because they're within a line and that budget got broken up and, this character needed, this accessory, whereas this character doesn't need as much. So they get averaged out. Otherwise, every figure would be priced based on exactly what was in the box, and then people would lose their minds because no two figures would be the same price. And again, just weird little things that people don't really think of. But anyway, this as a deluxe, I think, kind of set the bar, and I think
Mm.
now we'll look at deluxe price point figures and compare them to Snow Job because I think they absolutely nailed it. Value for money there is I don't think anybody questioned the value for money with that offering there.
It's
So
on something I haven't even mentioned right now, but the figure's really good. Like the
yes.
actual, there's a good weight to him, and there's a really
Mhm,
good balance to him, and there's like again, you get him in really cool poses despite all that winter gear, which
mhm.
again they've managed to make quite form fitting. It's not like the Pursuit of Cobra one, which again I love that era of GI Joe, love the 4-inch Pursuit of Cobra line and everything. But like when we got that, the big Arctic jacket
The
kind of
big
guys,
bulky one, yeah.
it was just, forget about posing them in any way, shape, or form.
Mhm,
Like that Snow Job, it came with all that gear and the sniper rifle. Good luck getting him in a sniper rifle position. Same with low light, big bulky gear, couldn't get him into a sniper position. But now with low light and with Snow Job, jobs are good and
mhm.
amazing. And yeah, someone mentioned that the name's on point, and I'm like, yeah, Snow Job. It's a proper awesome. Who came up with
That's
that, and how did
that's
they
one of
get
those
that
things, right, where
pass?
they put it in the list, and then it went to, like, whoever has to check that stuff, and they didn't quite
No, they
clue
just
in.
buried it. They buried it
Yeah,
within
yeah, yeah.
like, yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Or they
my number 2 y
or they put a worse name in there that did get cut, just like as a little red herring.
yes, that's absolutely yeah, I mean, you gotta think that those guys probably had a lot of fun when they were doing this back in the
Codename
day.
Butt Muncher? No, we've got to get rid of that one.
Well, we do have an alternate, it's Snow Job. How does that is that Um, my choice for my number 2 is another army builder. It is specifically the Cobra Island Trooper.
Ooh,
This
controversial.
thing, well,
Is it though?
yes,
Probably not. Probably not actually.
not
I
anymore,
don't even
not
know why I said
anymore,
that.
isn't it?
It's not controversial at all.
This blew my mind. This was like everything that I wanted in a 6-inch scale modern GI Joe line. So it's a Cobra Trooper the way we imagine it. It's blue with black. Comes with some guns. He's got a helmet which is
Man.
removable. We get the goggles. He gets the armband, and I was just like, okay, I need a lot of these. And then
I
I
love
couldn't.
that there's such a complex hierarchy in just the Cobra Troopers alone now, because you've got like officers, and you've got troopers, and you've got infantry, and you've got infantry squad leaders when you've got the armband on. That's just with and then you've got the Python guys that go into that as well. So you've got
You got
all of
Valkyries too
that.
now.
Valkyries. How did I forget that? Valkyrie and Valkyrie officer. So it's like
Mhm,
you've got there's so much in the hierarchy. I've actually put them all together at the top there, as like they're having some sort of like meeting. All of the like
mhm,
heads of the officers, and it's the officers
mhm,
club basically. Um, and I don't know, it's just phenomenal to see that many. That they've done so many with not much when you think about it. They haven't
mhm.
there
Yeah,
haven't been that many releases, but now because you've got this little armband in there, that you've got the opportunity to have a cheeky infantry squad leader. I love it.
yeah. And I
Oh,
will
mate, as
say
well,
this.
the time period as well. That time during when this all came out with the Baroness and the Coil and Beachhead and stuff like that, that I just remember that vividly, and the kind of like excitement for this Cobra Island thing as well was just
Yeah.
the coolest thing, man. Like I was so excited. It
The
was obviously
photography,
a
like, the
little,
story they were telling with the photography too was just so
yeah,
good. It
yeah.
was a little darker than, most GI Joe stuff had been. Like, it was much more in line with what we'd sort of seen, in some of the comic books and stuff, that weren't, Marvel. Um, and okay, so this is the other thing about the Cobra Island Trooper. These were easy for me to find. I live in a weird pocket of the world where, I'm in Canada, we still have Toys R Us, so I was getting them at Toys R Us. Now I, by that point, was on, like, kind of buddy terms with the guys that work there, and no shady business or anything like that, but, like, I knew when they got trucks, and I
Nice.
knew, like, which day was the truck that would have, the Hasbro action figures on it. So I would go, 10 minutes after they opened and I'd say, "Hey, was there any GI Joes on the truck today?" And they said, "Well, let me check." And they would, grab whatever. And um I will fully admit I bought every Cobra Island figure that came that I could basically. And then I would reach out to collectors that I knew and be like, "Hey, do you still need a trooper? Did you get Major Blood? Like, do you get whatever?" And I you know sold them all on at retail cost because that's what you're supposed to pay for them.
Nice.
Um, but I have 6 Cobra Island troopers, and I think I probably sent out another 12.
Blimey. So
So the
all of them were there, basically. That's where all of them went to.
yes, they shipped them all to the BC interior in Canada for some strange reason. But I never saw Baroness until it was, like, at that point where they couldn't give Baroness away. So
Weird,
I
wasn't
had
it?
to have somebody ship me Baroness, but I couldn't, you know, I got to the point where I was leaving troopers on the shelf because
Yeah,
there was
I
so many.
yeah, I remember that time period was really, really interesting and a little bit kind of stressful as a
Mm,
collector because obviously we it wasn't easy it wasn't easy to get out to stores because it was like smack bang in the middle of COVID as well. So I remember that being like a real issue. I
mhm.
remember as well with the Baroness, didn't see her at any point, never saw her, and thankfully I got one sent to me by I forget now. I feel really bad. Someone sent me one. Look, we were in contact kind of thing, and then Ben Conway sent me another one. So shout out to Ben Conway of Skeletron fame. He might have actually sent both. No, I think it was just he might have actually sent both. It was that bad. Yeah, I think he did. I think he sent us two. He sent one because he got loads. He managed to find loads where he
Mhm.
was in Minnesota, and
I think it's one of those things where, like, depending on where you are, it's just markets were different. Like, at the time, I felt like I was the only person really going in and asking them.
yeah,
Whereas there were people, in Vancouver, which is, 4 hours from me, but sort of the next major city, where people were like, "Yeah, it's chaos. Like, there's a lineup before they open, and you know what those guys are sort of waiting for." You know what I mean? Like,
damn,
I never had that problem, so it was like easy pickings for me in some respects, which is why when people are kinda selling them for like 2 and 3 times retail, I was like, "Man, that's cold and that's just
yeah.
dirty." Like, you're doing people dirty there when you're trying to do stuff like that, but, um, but I mean, these popped up like 16 or 18 months later at retail on some Canadian online retailers because there were still some kicking around somewhere. But here the other thing that was really funny with these was like the original were the blue pants, black collar, then it was blue
Oh,
pants, blue collar, then it was the black pants, black collar, like, and I had all of them. And I
I was
and
trying.
they,
I was.
they
I remember trying to get all those different variations. There was
yeah,
the beachhead blue eyes and brown eyes as well, wasn't there? There
and then they
was.
mixed them for the re-release kind of one. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. There was so many trooper variations. It was crazy. Yeah, I think I ended up getting all of the ones I needed, but like,
Mhm,
yeah, that was a pain in the butt. Really
mhm.
was. But that was a great figure, man. Love it. Amazing
Great
stuff.
figure, and again, an army builder. So I didn't want to, you could have put the Valkyrie in here. You could have put the Cobra officer. Like, part of what I absolutely
Officers
love
though.
about this is that because they're just so good and they're so fun, and you need multiples, and they nailed them. They absolutely nailed all of the army builders so far.
This
They could
line.
have picked. It could have just been like, yeah, I just picked all army builders. Anyway,
Friggin' eels as well, man. Jeez. Up inside you.
I but again, eels, people haven't been able to get eels. for whatever reason, they're
I
just
got 2,
making it.
thankfully. I know someone ordered 40 as well when they came out, and that's just
Well,
that
they were on
drives
Amazon and there was no max. So there's probably
unreal.
lots of people that ordered 100 knowing full
Yeah,
well that they're gonna turn around and sell them for, $10 over what they paid or $20 or whatever. Um,
yikes.
I've kind of stopped buying any extras because I think these things are easy enough to get. So I ordered my 3 and they arrived and I was happy, and then everybody's like, "Well, you didn't happen to get any extras?" And I was like, "Well, strictly speaking, no, I didn't because I thought everybody was sort of having no problem finding things
Yeah.
out." So here's very fast.
It's
Don't get me
funny.
going on the eels.
It's funny that like first we had the difficulty of actually getting figures in general, right? The first wave of figures it wasn't that easy. And then the Target exclusive things happened, and that was like, impossible to get hold of stuff. And
Mhm,
then when they figured that out, like the pre-order things, like Walmart jumped on and they started messing people around with the pre-order. So then we finally sort of not really worked it out, but we're finally getting to a place where it's not as bad. Obviously, Amazon has to turn up now and start messing around with stuff to make it difficult. We had the Pulse issues as well early
mhm.
on. Some people would say they're still going on in different parts of the world as well. It's like they get over one hurdle and then something else takes over as the main
Mhm.
issue. And also, guys, do we all remember the network fiasco? The app network. Oh my goodness. That was the
Network
funniest
decides that they're gonna
time.
drop because they use the term drop because it's like a streetwear kind of thing where it's like they do
Yep.
drops, and so everybody that was in on wave one signed up for Network, which is an app you had to download it on your phone, and then it's gonna drop at whatever time, and we're all sitting there waiting, and then it drops, and then people are ordering, but it's not going
Not
through, and
working.
then it's like, well, it's not showing up. They haven't charged my credit card, but it's confirmed the order. Some people couldn't even log in. The
Yep.
server was like,
The video that played, that annoying review video at the beginning,
yeah.
like was oh, that was so annoying. And yeah, it was just a
And then they just
funny
shipped people
experience.
standard Cobra Commanders.
That's the worst one. We all thought it was gonna be the Regal one. Then we were told, "No, it's gonna be the blue one." Then we were told, "No, it is gonna be the Regal one," and we were all expecting Regals to come in the mail, and lo and behold, no, it was all the standard one. So, like, we had this that Cobra Commander was the easiest figure to get hold of, bar none. There were no other figures
Mhm,
that have been as easy to find as
mhm.
Cobra Commander. You can probably still find him now on
Well,
Walmarts.
he was so in that box, so there was 6 figures in the boxes at that time, and I think it was 2 Gung Hos, 1 Red Ninja, and 3 Cobra Commanders. So everybody wanted Red Ninjas.
Unbelievable.
Nobody wanted
Unbelievable.
3 Cobra Commanders. Nobody
I
wanted
mean,
2 Gung Hos.
that that is a real, like, it was a rookie move. That it
Mhm,
was an error on a big way. Like, that they said they were working things out, and they were trying to, like, they were trying to do this thing as they went and everything. But at the same time, it doesn't and it's so basic, isn't it, to think
mhm,
that Cobra Commander is going to be the most, like, people are just going to want Cobra Commander. It's like that isn't necessarily always the case. If you flood the market with
yeah,
it, then no, and that's crazy doing that in the case numbers. Like, multiple Red Ninjas, 2 Cobra Commanders at most, and you're fine. But
yeah.
yeah, that's crazy. I know Lady J was another one, Jeremy, but I would still argue that Cobra Commander is still probably up there. And I'll tell you why, because I went into a store the other day, and yes, there were Lady J's, but there were also Cobra Commanders. And I was like,
Still
how am I still seeing this
two
figure?
and a half
Like,
years on.
yeah, crazy.
All right, number ones. Do you want me to do? You know what? You're the guest, so I'm gonna pull this down for a minute. I'm gonna show my number one,
Oh, okay.
and then we'll go back to your
I
number
see
one.
how it is. You just keep doing your stuff, and then I'll just mosey on out of here. Here's my number one. It's Nunchuck. It's not. It's not. I haven't
I
even opened
love
it.
that figure though.
It looks
My
amazing.
number one, still to this day,
Beautiful.
is the 00 Hasbro Pulse exclusive Snake Eyes often replicated, but in my opinion, never quite duplicated.
Can I
Now,
just
for
quickly,
me, part of the
was it
reason this is number one,
double O retail, not field variant, but variation
slight
sort of
adjustment. Yeah,
slight adjust, like running change, we call it maybe.
yeah.
Fortnite,
Hmm.
Fortnacht, um, Desert Commando, and Timber release 2.
Yes.
So Desert Commando's got a different head, obviously, but that's pretty.
Yes, I was gonna
Is
say
that everything?
that's the only change.
That's all. Is that all of the Snake Eyes we've had in that mold?
Yes. But
Okay,
we've
cool.
also had the Red Ninja, which is 99%
That's true.
that
That's
figure
true.
as well.
Yeah, beautiful figure. Sorry, yeah, you're right, mate. This Snake Eyes is
But that's not even all the
phenomenal.
Snake Eyes either, though.
No, of course not. We've got retro
Because
Alpha Commandos.
we had the Commando Snake Eyes, we had the Retro Snake Eyes.
Yeah,
I mean, we better damn well get that version 4 Snake Eyes. Um,
you better.
and Jeremy says Red and Blue Ninja use that. So they've
Yeah,
gotten
yeah.
good mileage out of this mold.
It's a wonderful
It's
figure.
it really is. And every time I look at it, and when people kind of get into classified even now and they're like, do I need the double O Snake Eyes? I'm like, no, because I think that version 2 that came with the Timber, like this figure that came with Timber recently, which is readily available, is a very, very close proximity to this. They even try to do like color-wise similar things to what they did with this one.
Yeah.
But this, as the first release in the G.I. Joe line with the brown, like initially I hesitated a little bit. I was like, Snake Eyes was brown, like, why isn't he just all black? And it was like, is the retail one going to be all black? Is it going to be the same as this? We didn't know. Nobody knew. There was like the excitement, but also like the panic of like, do I need this one or do I just wait? Um, I waited so long with this one that I didn't get the first release. I got it when they re-released it for like an hour
Oh
um
yeah,
after Wave 1 had launched.
yeah. I got this day friggin' one,
Day
man.
1.
I was there on the ground when this was
I
released, and
should
I
have.
was,
I 100% should have, and
mate.
I was kicking myself for not getting it. I had
One
it
of
in
my
my cart, and
Go
I
for it.
actually got similar to you. I thought it was like it shut down at like midnight my time on the day that they ended pre-orders, but it was midnight East Coast. And so I
Yeah.
sat down at the end of the day and I was like, "All right, I better order it. I'm gonna feel terrible if I miss it." Um, and it was still there, but when I went to check out, it wouldn't let me check out. It was in my cart and it wouldn't let me check out. And it was like, "No, you've missed the pre-order window." And I was like, "I haven't
What?
though. It's today." It's like
It's still midnight where I live.
just
Yeah.
because your clock is set further ahead than mine doesn't mean that I shouldn't be able to get this figure. But I
Yeah.
got it, and like the package, the accessories, that art print, the photography, like just everything. I mean, right out of the gate, they absolutely nailed it with Snake Eyes, and right out of the gate, I think even Roadblock and Scarlet, I think Wave One was fantastic. Still some of my favorite figures. Um, Now I have nitpicks, right? Because Duke
Of course.
could have had better storage. Scarlet maybe could have been a little bit closer to like a OG, but we're getting the retro one, so
Yeah.
in the end it all sort of works out. But still for me, this is my like definitive Snake Eyes. And because yeah, everything like every little detail is perfect.
I
There's
did
not a single
a
thing about this that I can
No, you're
criticize.
right. It's phenomenal. Even down to that wicked weapons kind of storage thing as well.
Mhm,
The kind of like, decorative Japanese sort of like weapon storage thing is so cool.
mhm.
It was just, I don't know. I think for me it was such a not even well, it was kind of a surprise. It's like, oh, we've got a new Snake Eyes design here, and like for the most part, most Snake Eyes designs either go completely like random directions and you end up with version 4, or you have, they'll stick to a theme. And this one just like somehow takes elements of every single Snake Eyes we've had and infuses it into this one. It almost becomes like, for me, this is the kind of ultimate Snake Eyes, really. Like, and we had
Yeah.
a
Mhm.
really good group of amazing Snake. I did a top 10 of my favorite Snake Eyes figures of all time, and I think the Retaliation Hot Toys Snake Eyes was actually my favorite at that point.
Mhm.
But I did it around this coming out as like a special thing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm telling you now, I think this is probably the best one. Honestly, it's just so good. And what is interesting is you could argue that that first wave, I don't get me wrong, I'm really into that Duke, Roadblock, and Scarlet. Those Scarlet figures, I do love them.
Yeah.
But I feel like when you look at their designs across that wave, including Snake Eyes, they have ever so slightly dated themselves a little bit. Like
Mhm.
the Scarlet one specifically looks a little dated. I think the kind of Avengers superhero get up is a little bit,
Mhm.
you know, you can, and if you look at like superhero movies, it's like they have to keep updating those things every single time, because they do tend to, if you go back a few years, it's like, oh, that looks a bit dated now. And that kind of, I get that feeling with Scarlet a little bit. But with, like Duke, obviously there are elements that they're doing, they're redoing the retro. Roblox had multiple versions. I think his Heavy Artillery one is the best one yet. And then,
Agreed.
but Snake Eyes, you cannot top that. You can't.
No.
I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to create some really cool Snake Eyes figures, but I don't think we're going to top this as a Snake Eyes figure. The retro one was really good because they made changes. They gave it a new head sculpt, yada yada yada. The Alpha Commandos one was cool because that was something it's very close to retro. But when you look at them very closely, they're very far away. It's hard to describe that.
Yeah, they
The
don't.
different.
Yeah, there's like there's a magic in this specific one, and I think like even though that one with Timber is like 90% there, there's like the colors on this one I think are
Mm,
just like you said,
yeah,
this is like if you take 1% of every snake, like the best 1% of every Snake Eyes that they've done so far, and there's at least
yeah.
100, so it's probably less than a percent, and sort of infuse that into one figure, it will be this one. And I genuinely I don't think that they're ever gonna make a classified figure that will replace this as my top figure.
Not bad. They did well, didn't they?
But
Came
on
out the
that
gate
note,
strong.
your number one
Oh, it's obvious, isn't it?
would have
Everyone already
been in
knows.
my top 3 if it wasn't yours. Um,
Trips, baby. This is like, so if Snow Job was the start of holy crap, we get this much for 34.99, then Tripwire
yeah.
just like eradicated any sort of preconception of what to expect, because oh my goodness, what a ton of stuff. Lots of different things to talk about here. Obviously, one, the fact that they named the bomb disposal robot McLeod is amazing, and to also know that they did that with me in mind was really really awesome. Now that like obviously they can't, because again it's that thing of, unless there's some sort of very um big sort of special reason, they can't really
Mhm.
do that anymore. They avoid doing that with this kind of stuff. They don't want people to be associated with things like that,
Yeah.
because of like, legalities and stuff like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
the fact they
Yeah.
did that was amazing. So that out of the way, that is obviously one reason that makes me really, really happy for this figure to be in existence. But then all the other stuff, Tripwire as Tripwire, just strip away all of the gear, and that figure is pretty cool. Like the head sculpt's pretty dope. The actual
Yeah.
figure's really sturdy and solid, fantastic. Then you've got two different options to go with. You've got the kind of version that we're kind of more au fait with, but is extraordinarily updated, it has to be said, still looks
Mhm.
phenomenal. Loads of cool stuff. The gear is on point. The backpack, the mines, the detector, all that good, brilliant, fantastic. Then
Mhm.
you throw in a remote for the robot as well, brilliant. Then you throw in another secondary, another helmet, and another neck piece to completely change the figure
Mhm.
design into something more like what's his name? I've drawn a massive blank. He looks like a giant orange figure. Why have I forgotten his name? You know what I'm talking about, right? When you put him in that second version, he looks like that Battlecore figure from the 90s, and I've completely forgotten his name.
Oh,
Anyway,
I'm thinking of the space one, the like half robot guy or whatever. But that's
no,
not the one
like
you're thinking of.
no. Let
When
me
you said
just
the big giant orange guy, I was like, oh, robot. What was he?
Robo Joe. No,
Yeah,
someone will
Robo
probably say
Joe.
in the
That's what I thought you were talking
someone will probably
about.
say in the comments in a second, but it would have been around about like 92, 93, wouldn't it?
Long
Um,
arm?
Long arm. That was killing me. Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, so like you've basically got long arm as a second option,
Mhm.
which is just like nuts, like as if they put two figures into this, and again, it's not long arm, but you know what I mean, like they're listed as if they've put two completely different versions of a figure in one box. Like, how did Hasbro sign off on that? Because yes, that's great from, like, Lenny's perspective, like wanting to do that and wanting to sneak things in or whatever,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
for them to go, no, we want you to release that version later on, for
Yeah.
obvious reasons. No, we're going to literally do two versions in one box is awesome. And it's something that I think with a deluxe figure is probably the way I want them to go with things in the future. I want them to do that. I want them to give us two versions of the same character in a box. That's what I
Mhm.
want to do
Mhm.
for 34.99 as well. And I haven't even said it yet, but an animal companion to boot.
Mhm.
Unreal.
And I
Unreal.
love it. I mean, the updates are great. My biggest complaint with this figure is that Tripwire as a character had no business having a figure that was this cool.
So true. He's had such duds over the years, hasn't he? Like
Well,
his
he's a
first
mine
figure.
detector. Like he's one of those characters where you're sort of like, how do you make this guy cool? You just like
Yeah.
make the like it's just such a great figure. And it blew me away how well executed it was. Like in terms of, the like we talked about, some of the armor that you get on figures just doesn't really fit very well. And this fits like perfectly.
Superb,
Um
yeah.
the helmet is it might be my favorite helmet that they've done in the classified line. Like it fits perfectly with the chin strap and everything. Like it's just so well done. Um and then, like you said, to have that robot there, and to know full well why it's called McLeod, it was like that's extra even for me. Like huge honor, congratulations, but it's
Thanks.
just really really cool. That's ex-
I genuinely choked up when I heard that. And then when I messaged Lenny on the live stream to see, like, what the hell, man, and
like
he was like, he was like, yeah. I was like, that's crazy. One thing I have done on mine, you might notice, is I've had to plug one of the mines in on the bottom of the detector,
oh.
like so, because
Mhm.
they don't all fit in the backpack.
I that's yes, that is my nitpick, is that they don't stack like the vintage ones did. And we only get 2, so I was a little bit disappointed with that, but we got a rat and we got a robot, so I couldn't really complain that much.
The little harness. What are they
My
thinking?
the
Brilliant.
the
Brilliant.
eyes on my rat are misprinted, and that's my only, so it kind of, but he's so small that who cares?
Mine are fine. Look,
Yours are perfect, yeah. Adorable.
amazing. And sorry, I've got to show this, obviously, haven't I? This is me. This is me in action figure form. There's me in
What do you
action
wanna
figure
be in the
form.
classified line? Can you make me a little robot with a big funny arm?
Isn't it great? I really like that. And then obviously, yeah, you got the little
The remote
controller as well,
control,
which is
yeah.
pretty dope. Love it. Yeah, this is easily my number one. It's going to be difficult to try and wrestle that from the top spot for me,
Yeah.
but who knows? One of these might do it. One of these to my left hand side, which I haven't touched yet.
Have you opened Buzzer yet? Or no, have
I
you
haven't
opened
got,
Ripper yet?
I haven't got Buzzer or Ripper, so no. I'm so behind, man. Like
I
what don't
just
I
opened
have?
Ripper a couple days ago, and he is something
Phenomenal.
else. Yeah, save him for the last.
I'm excited for the Dreadnoks because there was such a prominent force in the original comics for me when I was a kid as well. Like I was,
Mhm.
Yeah, really into those guys. I'm kind of excited if they do. I'm hoping they do Monkey Wrench as well at some point, which I'm sure they will. But yeah, I'm really excited to see more
Oh, for
Dreados.
sure. Yeah, for sure they will, I think. Jeremy says rock and roll is his number one. Rock and roll is a great
Nice.
figure.
That is a good figure. That's
I
low
want two
key,
versions of rock
bang.
and roll. I
Yeah.
want so that was like I really love that rock and roll, but on another like in another world, I kind of wanted a version 1 and a version 2, and that's kind of a weird
I could
mix
honestly see them. Well, I know people say that, but I look at that figure and I don't see much other than the deco on the shirt as
as a
as
version 2.
a
Yeah,
nod
no,
to
agreed,
version 2.
agreed. Yeah,
So
yeah.
they have got got it well within their rights
Mhm.
to do a baseball cap sort of, double fisted, ridiculous machine
Deluxe.
gun bad boy. Yeah,
Mhm,
that is a high possibility still, I think.
mhm, mhm. Well, we are well over the time, so I hate to cut this chat short, but we did get through, our top ones.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. It's been great. It's just it could have kept being great for even longer if I didn't have to cut it short. So I apologize to
Not at
everybody,
all.
because if anybody knows Chris, they know that he could probably just talk about Joe's forever.
Just
Uh,
talk.
so, so
Just talk
but I
forever.
think this is probably good. So, anyways, I've got, down below in the description. I think I already loaded it now, so it should be there if you're watching this now. But if not, I will have it down below a link to Chris's YouTube channel. I mean, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, shame on you, because I've been telling people that they need to subscribe to Full Force
Thank
for
you.
years.
Appreciate it.
But yeah, go subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Go check out the Facebook page, which is great if you want up to date the latest pics and the latest news. And now on Instagram as well as
Instagram, Twitter slash X, whatever you
Twitter,
want to call it.
all the
TikTok.
spots.
We're on If you're on TikTok, check us out. I do videos I try and get a video up every week on TikTok, which
A new
vary from
dance every week.
a new dance.
A new TikTok dance.
We're gonna have an OnlyFans. No, we're not gonna do that. No, go check out TikTok. It'd be fun. It's fun videos. You'll like them.
Yep, check them out on all the
And
things.
I'm doing the Let's Talk Classified Nemesis Enforcer / Immortal very soon as well. I was going to do it tonight, but I don't think I don't think that's going to happen now. Thanks, Adam.
I'm so excited that they're doing Cobra Law.
Same.
Like,
Same.
I get that there's people that are like, no, G.I. Joe ended it in 86 and I don't go past that or whatever. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But they're gonna be a ton of fun. Anyways,
Mate.
I gotta go. Chris, thank you so much for being on here. Everybody in the chat, thank you guys all so much. If you're watching the replay, I appreciate you as well. I know that not every time works for everybody. So until next time, bye.
Bye. Full Force.
Oh shoot, I forgot. I meant to do that.
That's fine.